2024 has been a year full of fantastic movies that provide unique ways to explore themes that have previously been overshadowed by the cinematic art form, with new inventive filmmakers rising onto the scene, as well as other pre-established filmmakers exploring their techniques in creative ways. So many of my favorite movies surprised me in the amount of imaginative creativity that could only ever pour from this amount of passion. Even a good majority of blockbusters ascended onto the screen because of their ability to connect with the audience. Sure, there was still the normal general audience box office smashes, corporate soullessness, but there was also an impressive amount of new pathways that these studios took. But unfortunately, more than most years, a lot of my personal favorite movies of the year kinda went under the radar, in both obviously box office records, but also within my film circle and general Letterboxd addict community. So I figured instead of doing a normal top movies of the year, I would only focus on movies I feel like aren't talked about enough. With that said though, there are obviously so many movies that you probably know of that I also like very much. So let me just quickly zoom past these movies this year that I feel like have enough attention as to not be overrated, but movies I want to at least say one sentence about because I appreciate them. Trap showed just how talented of a filmmaker Shyamalan can be, alongside one of the best lead actors of the year with Josh Hartnett's chameleon of a performance. It also includes that unironic and ironic cheesy comedy that you'd expect from M. Night's new silver phase of his career. Monkey Man was such a good directorial debut from Dev Patel as it carries fantastic action and political commentary. Abigail was a perfect evolution in Radio Silence catalog as it explores basic horror lore in a great mix of comedy, character investment, and thrilling action. It's What's Inside used peak editing to enhance the basic tropes found in a body swap story, as the horror only gets you more and more invested with each complicated character interaction. Spy X Family Code White was an entertaining continuation of everything I love in the series of manga. Bad Boys had some of the best action direction in the past 10 years, and the writing holds up fairly well. David Zaslav, you will burn in hell for many reasons, but one of them is certainly destroying a Batgirl movie from this fantastic directing duo. Rebel Ridge was a riveting thriller about man going up against disgusting pigs, as it shows inventive ways on how a simple man can get into a system and tear it down from the inside. Honora is a film that I thought was kinda underwhelming due to how the central romance kinda fell a bit flat, and the first hour was kinda mid. Then that second hour kicked into high gear with an emotional mystery comedy. Mickey Madison also gives one of the best lead performances of the decade. Look Back hurts a lot despite its short runtime due to how easy it is to connect with these fleshed out characters and their tangible pain. Long Legs deserves all the hype it got despite not being in my personal top 5 horror films to come out in 2024. Inside Out 2 was really good and the best case scenario for how it could have turned out, although Disney is clearly learning all the wrong lessons from it, which is frustrating as you see more and more terrible ethics they are infusing into their animated divisions. Quiet Place Day 1 is undoubtedly the highlight of the franchise, as it puts in impactful themes of what it means to survive and uses the franchise as a backdrop. Hundreds of Beavers is funny and creative and just as much as everyone says, even if I still personally prefer the team's previous work in Lake Michigan Monster. The Substance is as good as the hype says. Don't watch it with your parents or while eating. Love Lives Bleeding was a disturbing, chaotic rom-com that goes in directions you'd never expect. The Zone of Interest was a horrifying and technologically perfect depiction of stuff that is unfortunately far too common in this society. In fact, it is too common that the Academy voting on this movie didn't realize they were part of the problem and were offended when it was pointed out by the filmmakers themselves, which is just incredibly based. Twisters is a fun disaster flick that goes past the usual formula in order to become a surprisingly poetic story about survivor's guilt and how we respect those we've lost. Kingdom of Planet of the Apes was the perfect continuation of the perfect trilogy that includes great characters and fantastic world building. Poor Things had some half-baked ideas, but is overall a great drama comedy sci-fi horror. We Live in Time stabbed my heart through its great use of non-linear storytelling, the two central performances that bring their character chemistry to life in heartbreaking fashion. Hitman is what really solidified me on Glenn Powell being one of our best and most charismatic modern actors, as Linklater flaunts his screenplay talents. Kinds of Kindness was my personal favorite Lathros film to come out of this year, as each one of its 3 stories had me hooked with great performances and fittingly gross themes. Will and Harper was certainly the best documentary of the year and shows this friendship in ways that just makes your heart happy. Challengers is just as great as everyone says. I feel like Guadagnino and Zendaya pushed their talents even further than they already were. Nosferatu is a gorgeous representation of human darkness we often succumb to. I don't know if this is a hot take, but I even slightly prefer it to Eggers' previous masterpieces. Furiosa didn't deserve to flop, as in my opinion it easily shines as the best Mad Max movie. Not just great action, but also grand-scale journey through a traumatizing life with perfect ways of portraying its themes of hope. Dune Part 2 is certainly Dune Part 2. Wicked had me having seizures in the theater as my gay brain fell in love with this fantastic portrayal of the musical. And lastly, for this not-so-quick segment of the video, The Wild Robot is the second best animated movie of the year as it uses its art form to its full power as it delivers the perfect and mature story of this sci-fi animal kingdom. This isn't necessarily a movie that I would say is underrated in the same way the movies I talked about later are, but it's one that I feel like I needed to include simply because it's so much better than I feel like anyone could have ever expected. I mean, the numbers don't lie. It was so much less talked about and seen than the first, which is pretty sad to say considering, oh my god, this was such a fantastic improvement from the first one. Like, I'm not gonna lie, this isn't a great horror film, but it's really good and provides a really exciting future for this franchise that I previously could not care at all about. I feel like most people think that the original is just kind of mid with some good spooks, but I personally think it's really bad. Nothing about it was truly impactful for me. This new one is the complete opposite. Not perfect by any means, but a good horror film that has many great elements in ways that I think unexpectedly deserve to be praised. The horror here works wonders because it's way more than just lazy jump scares. Not only is there creative horror found within the way the filmmaking provides chills down your skin, the imagery has been burned into my head, and even though there are some jump scares, this film understands the art form of jump scares and doesn't use them as a replacement for genuine horror, instead using them in ways that enhance horror within already tension-setting ways. It's also unbelievable that this is from the same director as the first, simply because it's filmed so differently in such an expert way. There's so many really engaging ways the camera is used here, and a lot of impressive one-takes. The direction of Smile 2 just knows how to put you in the scene. It makes you feel constant sadness and pain that swims through our lead protagonist. Speaking of the protagonist, not only is she written pretty well with a backstory that is explored in emotionally connective ways, but Naomi Scott kind of gives one of the best performances of the year. If anything, it is 100% one of the best to come out of a blockbuster I've seen in a good minute. Then I found her connections with the supporting cast to be really inventive, and they explored the themes in mature ways. So even if not all the writing works, and there are some parts that go on too long and or repeat themselves to a point of annoyance, the majority of this film carries it to be a solid horror film. If this is any indication for the future of the franchise, or even Paramount's new horror division, count me in because I have a good feeling that it'll only get better and better. Juror Number 2 is a movie that I feel like I have a sense of obligation to talk about because it's really good, but also because it seems like Warner Bros. Attempted to bury it for reasons that are beyond me. This is seemingly the final film by Clint Eastwood, who is admittedly a director I haven't seen a film of before, but is one that is clearly very well respected both critically and commercially. So does Dick Zadlav handle this great film? He fights against its theatrical release despite how great the limited release did, attempts to bury it on his Circle Jerk streaming service as a Max original. This man needs to be thrown down a hole, I swear to God. But regardless, this movie is really great, and if you feel welcome to this movie flying over your head, you need to watch it. Nicholas Hoult gives a fantastic performance as always, and all the characters are given so much depth with pitch-perfect performances. I really appreciate how besides the wife and J.K. Simmons, there are no black and white clear good guys and bad guys. They're all so easy to empathize with and their morals are fantastically child. I don't quite think it's as perfect as others seem to think, mainly because the middle sort of drags a bit, and I'm not gonna lie, I don't love the final scene. In concept I like it, but it's staged sort of awkwardly and I wish they left it a bit more ambiguous about who was at the door. But besides that, yeah, this film's really good, and you should go watch it, then go punch David Zaslav into a dumpster. I Used to Be Funny is a movie that I've been interested in since its 2023 premiere at film festivals because I love Rachel Sennott, and I was curious on how she would tackle a much more serious role than I've seen her do previously. The film follows a stand-up comedian who is dealing with depression from guilt for how a girl she used to babysit is currently living. The film tackles a bunch of sensitive topics really respectfully and explores how they affect the characters in ways that really touched me. Without giving any spoilers but still providing a trigger warning, the topic of sexual assault isn't shown but is explored, specifically in how PTSD will live with you and affect every aspect of your life. The writing is very sharp comedically and dramatically, thematically, the connections between the characters feels impactfully explored, the cinematography and general direction has a great tone to it. And of course, Rachel Sennett gives an incredible performance that's really stuck with me in the exploration of PTSD. It can drag a bit, the first act is a bit unclear, but it's definitely a film worth watching if you are emotionally ready. Now moving on to a less mellow subject, Lisa Frankenstein is a blast. It's the latest film to arrive from the mind of Diablo Cody, writer of Juno and Jennifer's Body, and it's definitely my second favorite of her works. The film embraces Cody's usual themes, feeling like an outsider and learning to embrace your proper self in the face of normies. The film is mostly a comedy with some really great humor. The dramatic stuff that is paired with it also works for me. Catherine Newton is one of the most special rising actors we currently got, and this just proves her range that can very easily captivate you. Her timing is perfect in every way, and I love how much each of the actors live in the tone of the script. I think it can somewhat drag due to being in the same couple of sets, and the PG-13 rating sanitizes some stuff that could have been a bit more fun, but the film has incredible makeup, pitch-perfect performances, an excellent screenplay, great use of music, and a very pretty aesthetic attached to it. Very fun movie that I'm surprised most people don't talk about. If this sounds like your thing, check it out. Memoir of a Snail is another one of those movies that I haven't been able to stop thinking about since I watched it. It is a visually beautiful film that still has an aura of sound sadness found in the great screenplay. Yet it still splashes in moments of levity as to not drown you in complete sadness. A lot of compliments given towards this movie can be attributed to the amazing vocal performances, especially with the lead Asara Snook. If I could describe this movie in one word, I would say vulnerable. You get to see all sides of this tragic life, but it's also easy to feel empowered by the strength shown by the titular snail, and I cannot stress enough how well the art style adds to the gravity of the whole experience. Watch it if you're ready for something strong, but don't worry, you'll be rewarded by doing so. Life can only be understood backwards, but we have to live it forwards. Hunter Schafer is one of my favorite rising talents, so I was incredibly excited to see her leading her own horror film. And I gotta say, I was not disappointed by the outcome. Coco follows a grieving teenager moving into a home with her stepfamily and trying to find her place in this community as she discovers the sinister undertones that are lurking within this place. It sometimes gets too boggled down in its lore exploration, and certain scenes drag out or get too repetitive, but overall, this is a film that I really appreciate for all the fun stuff it does incredibly. The performances are great as Dan Stevens portrays his mysteriously sadistic villain super well as he hides beneath many layers of this performance. Then Hunter as the lead is absolutely incredible. She has the perfect charm you would want from a final girl, as you can so easily empathize with her struggles and interests. I love how similar she is to Scream Sydney in terms of pointing out the horror tropes in a self-aware way that is never overbearing or ruins the tone. Because I think a lot of this movie's more serious elements work perfectly too, and I love the relationship she constructs with her stepsister and the girlfriend she meets in the Alps. The horror works really well for me too, with many chilling moments that come courtesy of the amazing direction, cinematography, score, and some of the best sound design in 2024. It's a really fun movie that I would recommend you check out when you're in the mood for a mix of camp and well-done creeps. When I started writing this video, I included this one on the underrated list because I felt like not many people were talking about it, whereas now it seems to be getting a lot of awards attention, but I don't know, I'm still gonna talk about it. If I'm being honest, the main reason I wished to include this movie on the list was because I felt like it was getting overshadowed by a certain other Sebastian Stan performance, even though I would argue this is the best thing to come out of his career. A Different Man explores themes of jealousy and never-ending self-resentment in very memorable ways as the direction gets under your skin as the storm brews more and more danger. You can't ever really predict where the story goes next, and obviously puts you perfectly in the painful shoes of the main character. Obviously, Sebastian Stan is insanely perfect, but the performances from Renate Renesov and Adam Pearson also understand the assignment. I love how layered these three characters are, and how despite living as them, sometimes you can't quite pinpoint the motivations of these characters in that moment. Are they selfish? Are they telling a lie? Or is this just who they are? This movie just hits a perfect sweet spot with how well the acting, directing, and writing synergizes. I could say more, but I don't want to risk spoiling anything, so go watch it. Out of all the movies mentioned in this video, I'm fairly confident that this is the most unknown of all of them. So let me just make you a pitch really quick. A ranch full of the queer community. So yeah, go watch National Anthem. Oh wait, I forgot to mention that this is a gorgeous film with a wonderful screenplay, amazing performances that transcend the simple nature of the story, and move you in ways you'd never expect. So many scenes of this movie just sweep me off my feet and engross me in the setting in such an engrossing ways. All the locations of this film just embrace the internal emotions of the characters that are explored and performed in many fantastic ways. Seeing this dude slowly come to terms with who they are and all the lessons that they learn along the way warms my heart, but also not without breaking it a couple times. The way the dialogue is written in this movie also fascinates me. It feels realistically natural, but also includes so many thinking pieces and beautiful phrasing. Then the cinematography and lighting of this film is just one of those things that I just want to eat. Oh my lord, it's so pretty. Go watch this movie and support it as much as you can. It deserves to be one of the most popular of 2024. Diddy was a movie that I was expecting to sweep all the award seasons in general film community conversations when it first came out, but as the months went by, I felt like this film was sort of went under the radar and was overshadowed by likewise conversation pieces. Well, I'm here to say, make sure you know that it's sweet. I don't have too much to say about it, as it mostly uses the regular formula for a middle school movie, but it's presented in such a charming way, as the talent within the performances also shine. The writing is very personal and dear. Most plot points had me invested, and whenever it focused on the mom, it was perfect. I don't know what else I can really say. I obviously recommend it, and it's a fairly sweet watch. Have fun. Thelma is a movie that's basic concept is John Wick but with her grandma, but goes far beyond that silly concept to be what is one of the most genuinely, emotionally moving films of the year, with arguably some of the best performances of the year with the three main leads. The film starts off pretty funny, with all the jokes really working for me, even on rewatch, and the film's comedic pace just gets stronger and stronger as it goes along. Then the middle point of the film starts to slow down, and some of the jokes set up earlier start getting payoff as more emotional moments. And it just snowballs until the third act, which is still pretty funny, but mainly just tugs on your heartstrings in simple yet effective ways. The final monologue in this movie broke me, and is one of those 2024 movie moments that I can't get out of my head. It's also a movie that I would argue is the best kind of movie to watch with your entire family. I mean, both times I watched it, I did. So yeah, check it out. It's a fun yet heart-wrenching time that I can't imagine someone not enjoying. Similar to Smile 2, I wouldn't call Fall Guy underrated in the same sense of any of the other movies on this list, but I just need to talk about this movie simply because how unfortunately flopped. Oh my god, I love this movie, it's so clever, the performances are amazing, David Leitch directs the fuck out of it, all the comedic bits work for me, no matter how much I watch it, the soundtrack bangs, and the romance at the core constantly warms my heart. This has easily crawled into the core of my soul and become a comfort movie for me to revisit whenever I feel the need. I also love the way this movie explores the art of filmmaking, especially the art of action filmmaking, and uses that to enhance the film in ways that's presented. The Fall Guy also masters the art of running gags. Stuff like the Dune parody, Sticky Notes, the Unicorn, and Sean Claw only ever get funnier and funnier as they up the ante and tie them back to the overarching narrative very effectively. Likewise, this is also why I would recommend and personally prefer the theatrical cut over the extended one, as I think the jokes just land better, and the deleted sequences work better as deleted. But still, I absolutely adore the movie. As many people as possible need to recognize it as peak, because as clearly is in my eyes, cannot praise this movie enough. Okay, now we're getting into my two favorite movies of the year, starting with the absolute masterpiece that is Flow. I clearly love The Wild Robot, but there is absolutely no doubt that this is the best animated movie of the year, and if it wasn't for a certain life-changing experience, I'd have no problem calling it my favorite movie of last year. The film is fairly similar to The Wild Robot, as it follows a group of animals slowly coming together as a pack in order to make it through the harsh seas found within this apocalyptic future. But with three main differences: a grander scale of adventure with some insanely creative set pieces, no humans at all, and the biggest thing, the animals don't talk. We follow these guys with no dialogue, but you are able to get so attached to these guys, their desires, their arcs, and the way their personalities grow depending on how closer and closer they grow with each other. Obviously, it's easy for me to say I love animals, and especially cats more than anything else in the world. But I think regardless, normal people should also be able to get invested in the incredible way the Mute story is told. The visuals are beautiful, there are too many moments that made me cry, the characters are so expressive, the themes that are buried and entangled within it. It's given me a lot to chew on for months. I don't want to say more because it's fairly short and somewhat simple film that I don't want to risk spoiling any possible aspects of. Go watch it, please. It's my favorite movie of the year. Besides, of course, I Saw the TV Glow is a film that I feel like isn't really that overrated, but like it's one of my favorite movies of all time, so I need to talk about it. But like also, where do I start with a piece of art as impactful as this? Right from the impeccable sound design and the weight of the beautiful cinematography, I knew this would be something very special. And by the time we got to the star-burned and unkissed sequence, I was a bawling mess. And that was only 20 minutes into the 2-hour movie. So imagine how I was the rest of the film. It's so easy to relate to these characters, it only hurts more and more as these guys get tortured in ways that gave me the most fear of any horror movie. It's obviously not without sweet moments of levity, as the movie explores the connection we can have with art and how it can save us, alongside the masterful writing and pacing, dialogue, and general story. Every technical work found in this film is phenomenal. The beautifully grim cinematography, and the seamlessly touching editing, and the sound design, and the thought-provoking direction, and that score! How did you make something that good? Then of course, the two leads provide two of the best performances of the decade, as they seamlessly age as you explore a whole 20 years of their life. Then, what makes this an insanely important movie is the beating heart at the center, exploring what it means to be transgender, and how it's never too late to find your true self, especially with the light of art this impactful. It's no secret the future of the queer community in 2025 is incredibly scary, but this movie provides a light that regardless, we can't hide who we are if we are to make it through. Life is a whirlwind of constant pain and unfairness, but we got to keep living. I mean, after all, we've made it this far. It's up to us to get as far as we can, even if that's just so we can spit in the faces of those that hate us. I know it's scary, but that's part of it. You'll suffocate if you stay any longer. There is still time. Movies and TV shows are very important to me. They are something that I feel like I need to experience myself through. But maybe I don't have to be someone else on the other side of the TV screen. Maybe the characters on the TV screen can look through me, see me, find myself, and truly be myself. Stop hiding and let the beautiful parts of me push away the ugly side of the world. I'm no longer buried. I feel as if this movie did something to free me. A transcendent, emotional, horrific masterpiece that takes a look how horrible my life could be if I keep digging deeper and deeper. Peak Sonic the Hedgehog 3! Oh my god, Shadow's so cool! This story is handled with such care. The movie genuinely looks very pretty, and the fight scenes are directed very well, and the characters are explored in really cute ways. I love the way they interact, and Jim Carrey gives an amazing performance, and the voice acting is so good, I feel like I've manifested this movie into existence. I love how silly animals go zoom zoom, pew pew, and it's the coolest guy ever, and Knuckles snaps the goat! And I love it, it's the best of all fiction! Okay, bye.